Hey everyone, this is Grim. I have Ender and VMXEO with me. We're doing an audio check. Guys, can you sound off for me?
Siggity sound. Off.
Everyone chat.
Hello. Check 1, 2.
Everyone chat. Can you hear us? Are we coming in 5 by 5? I know some of our stalwart quality check community members will definitely tell us here.
Either they can't hear us or they're too engrossed in discussing their favorite ships right now.
I can't. Yeah. My channel's actually being weird. Hold on.
Let's see. Check 1. Okay, Captain Sand loud and clear.
Yep, you're good. You're good. Hearing the sound.
Okay, cool. Everyone, we're going to get ready to go here in just a second. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Got 5 by 5 by Robert. Appreciate that. We're going to roll the Starjump station open, and we're going to get to it. We'll see you in just a minute. All right. Hello, everyone. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I think I've got the audio turned on. It's been a while since we've seen our Starjump station community. With me, as always, is Ender. Ender, say hello.
Hello.
Before I get to our guest, usually, Starla is here with us. She is still obviously part of Starjump, has worked very hard on Starjump Fleet Viewer for the last few months. But I did want to go ahead and announce that she's kind of taking a little bit of a sabbatical from Starjump Station, taking a little break. Not a problem. We always intended the show to be just that, something you could step into or step out of, depending. We originally had an episode, I think it was in May, and we said we were going to take a few weeks off, and then that turned into 3 months. But that's sort of what Starjump Station is. It's something to kind of fill the gaps. It's not a regular content show that's like every week, obviously. We do our best, but we are starting it back up and getting things moving again. This will be a little bit of a shorter episode tonight, but we got some fun things to discuss, and we thought, there's no better guest to have on than someone who's been helping a lot on the Starjump Fleet Viewer for over the last year and a half, if you can believe it's been that long. We've mentioned him many times on the show, and you see him mentioned as collaborator on Twitter a lot. VMXEO, how are you, dude?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Wanted to have you on for a long time, and we will have you on more going forward for sure. But again, since we didn't have Starlet here tonight, I was thinking, who would we get to fill that third chair tonight, and it made sense for it to be you. And it also, and we'll get to this here in a minute in the show, but we're all going to be seeing each other this weekend. So again, it felt like a good pre-party to get things started for this upcoming weekend. So I see Starlet in chat. Starlet, I hope you're well. We miss you. Thanks for all the hard work you've been doing for Starjump over the last few months, and definitely enjoy the Starjump Station sabbatical. In lore, Starjump Station is doing its thing, and Starlet is out in her 600i and another system, but she will come back to the station at some point to refuel and restock supplies. Okay, before we get going, I was going to hand it off to Ender. I think Ender has some beginning of show announcements he may want to go
Yeah.
over, but Ender, do you want to go ahead and hit that?
So just a couple of quick things. Since we've been away, most of the people here may know that we lost one of our community members. Very, very, very close member. We've taken to calling her the heart of the verse, and I believe Griff is in the chat now. You named your 600i the heart of the verse, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But we're doing a fundraiser for her in her name for a charity that she would have wanted to raise money for. It's the Helen Woodward Animal Center. I think it's sorry. Yeah, Helen Woodward Animal Center. I was right. So if you guys would like to donate, you can by going to that link.
Yeah.
And it's direct to them, like all charities that we do, zero money goes to us. So
yeah, absolutely.
We are doing that in her name. Griff, he said, yes, I did. The ship seemed to be fitting since it was her main load ship.
And we've had a great response and stuff from our community, even on the wider Star Citizen community on Twitter when we made the post breaking the news, and just been a big outpouring of support. So we really appreciate that. Yeah.
And Griff is gearing up for life adventures. He's got a lot that he's planning on doing in the near future. So he's got a lot going on.
And speaking of the charity stuff, we're going to get to that a little bit more towards the end of the show. We have some announcements about that stuff, but also a little bit of a renewed focus on it. It was always there, but there was some other Starjump stuff that was kind of further up in the pipeline for us to all be involved in. But now that those things are out the door, we're really going to try to start shining a bigger light back on the charity stuff. So expect that moving forward.
Yep. Stuff coming down the pipeline. It's really exciting. We'll talk about it later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff.
Cool.
Very good stuff.
All right. Well,
hello, info runners.
Yep. Hello, info runners. Hello, everyone in chat. Actually, we got a lot of great people in chat. I see James. I think Vent's in there, right? VM.
Yeah. It's all Vince.
I think so.
Yeah.
Fairly certain.
He's always a lot of working out somewhere.
Yeah, I see a lot of our normal, our normal community people that typically show up. So thanks for that support. We're going to kind of launch right into things, everyone. Again, it's going to be a little bit of a shorter show tonight. It's an incredibly busy week for not only us, but also the StarFab crew, which includes VMXEO. We'll get to why it's such a busy week for all of us very shortly. But I'm going to swing over here to our other view. Let's see here. We got a few things to discuss. We kind of give you an overview of the topics for tonight. Again, no deep dives into any sort of like gameplay loops or anything like that. We're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming Bar Citizen Fan Con, whatever you want to call it, known as Equinox, happening on Saturday the 8th. We're going to go into that in just a minute. We're going to talk about the Citizen Con panels that were announced and kind of give our, quick down and dirty, quick impressions of that. We're not going to go for 30 minutes into why we're excited about XYZ, but just kind of go over them and maybe what we're hoping to see, what we're excited about, etc. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Fleet Viewer, Starjump Fleet Viewer, and then a few Guardians stuff at the end. And of course, we are going to talk to our awesome guest, VMXEO, and have him tell us a little bit about StarFab and what it is as well. So real quick, let's talk about Equinox first. What is Equinox? VM, help me out. What are they labeling it as? Is it a bar citizen? It's more than a bar citizen, though, right?
It's more than a bar citizen. It's almost a mini in-person Citizen Con, except that Citizen Con actually ended up happening on that day. So
yeah, kind of a mini Citizen Con.
It's going to be a watch party. There is going to be some surprise guests. Some have been announced, some haven't.
Yeah.
I believe some of us may or may not be there.
Yeah, well, this is no time like the present to announce that both myself and Ender from Starjump will be there. I wish Starlet could be here with us, but unfortunately, our Patreon could not support tickets for that. Although I'm sure Starlet would have just handled it, but she's also deserves a much needed break. So I live in Columbus, so for me, Equinox is just down the road. But me and Ender will be there. We're going to have some cool Starjump stuff, and the Starfab crew is going to be there, which includes who? VM, tell us a little bit about your team that's going to be at Equinox.
So we have the three main of us on the Starfab team. So that includes James, who is hiding out in chats.
Yep.
Ventivar, who may or may not be in chats, and me. We will be there. We will be presenting what Starfab is, what it does, why it's important to a lot of community projects, including Fleet Viewer.
Yeah.
So it'll dovetail real nicely into your demonstrations, I'm hoping.
Yeah, and
especially for those who like the technical nuts and bolts.
Yeah, and we'll get to Starfab a little bit more here in just a minute for sure, because I did want to highlight that for especially anyone in chat who may be going, kind of give them a little bit of a primer on what Starfab is. I know people have probably heard me say the name before. Anyways, also what's playing here, I did up a little Equinox animation, handed that over to Shadowken. So Starjump was trying to do some stuff to kind of tie into the show a little bit. Those of you that may know, Equinox's kind of, flagship ship that they use in some of their marketing is the Polaris. Shadowken told me that it's a black Polaris, is kind of black and red is kind of what they go for. So one thing that's going to be really cool is maybe a day or 2 days before the event, so sometime later this week, we will be putting in the Equinox Polaris into Fleet Viewer as a supporter ship, a contributor ship. Those of you know we got a few of those. And so we're going to put that in. This Polaris here also has a bunch of new modeling work that I did to it. So we'll be updating the base Polaris, but we'll also be putting in the Equinox Polaris. So it'll be a lot of fun. And I'll probably highlight a little bit of that there while we're at the show, and kind of how I take a really terrible holo model and dress it up as best I can with some modeling work to get the fidelity up to where these concept ships can at least play in the same ballpark as the Starfab stuff, which is incredibly detailed, obviously, because it's pulling from the source. So so Equinox, it's this Saturday the 8th, Columbus. It's going to be a lot of fun. For those of you that have tickets, are going to be there. Look for all three of us here, and the rest of the Starfab team will be there. Looking forward to meet people. I will have, by the way, I'm just going to say, do I have it near me? No, I don't have it near me. I will probably be rocking my Drake Kraken hoodie. Yes. And I prepare to make everyone jealous.
I'm already jealous of that.
You got that back?
Yeah,
I
got it back. My wife stole it for a little bit, but I got it back.
My wife stole my my bunker stuff shirt, so I think I'm going to be wearing the Guardian shirt this time. She'll be wearing bunker stuff.
There you go. But we're gonna have some cool stuff too at our tables. So again, if you're there, stop by the Starfab table, Starjump table. We could be at the same table. We might be at separate tables. Who knows? I don't really know how it's going to be, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really, really excited. So Equinox. All right, real quick then, before we move off of that and kind of segueing, I did want to talk a little bit about Starfab. So VM, tell us a little bit, because the people that have seen me working on Fleet Viewer, whether it was in private Patreon streams or in my behind the scenes work that I used to do, where I would work on ships and stuff, Starfab was something that I would sometimes very briefly mention, but I never went really in depth on, because I didn't know, where it was and exactly how you guys at Starfab wanted to, position it, what the messaging behind it was, how you were selling it, all that kind of stuff. And So now I think you guys are probably at a great state where you can kind of talk a little bit, have a better plan, about what you're doing with it and what it's going to do for the community. So can you speak a little bit on StarFab and what it is?
Absolutely. StarFab is what is we call it's a 3D pipeline tool. It is designed specifically to dive into the Star Citizen PK4 file and extract assets. So it can go through, it can read records, it can find ships. Um, Star Citizen assets are incredibly complicated. There's no single ship in the file. Ships can be literally thousands of little pieces of geometry, shaders, images, textures, sound effects. And if you want to do something like bring a ship out of Star Citizen and into a 3D package, you have to somehow reassemble all this.
Right.
And
And I'll just say, I'm going
the
to interrupt you
longest
real
time,
quick. As James said,
Mhm.
yes, no sell. I didn't mean sell in that context. I meant sell in the, how you want to position it for the community as a tool. So
Good
sorry,
catch. We don't
continue.
want to get in trouble for yes.
Yes.
But
We play
yeah,
by the
so
rules
you
here at
have
Starjump and Starfab.
very, very important, very important. But yeah, so you've got all of these potentially thousands of pieces that have to get assembled, and there were some tools out there that originally let you do that. So, for instance, some of you, if you've ever worked with like Mark Kemp's PK4 conversion tools, let you convert StarFab individual geometry into something that 3D packages could use. It converted over the texture files. The problem was there was no way to get everything assembled. So when I was first starting to learn modding with Star Citizen, I had to do all this by hand. One of my first projects, in fact, was a scene of an 890 jump corridor, and I had to put all of those pieces back together like a model kit.
Yeah.
It was a learning experience. It took me forever, and I think eventually I had the fish photo around somewhere. You look at it; it's an homage to the 2001 corridor scene of a spaceman walking through the 890 jump airlock.
Mm-hmm.
So as I started doing that, I started building up the tools, and I ended up getting in contact with James, who was doing a similar project. He was looking at building tools to help bring all these things together and build out ships. And James was doing that for JRDF, actually, trying to help their workflow so they could bring ships in to create models and packages for Star Citizen. So we started collaborating. We ended up bringing in Vent, who had a back-end API, had this beautiful Python package created that we were able to build a framework to go in that we could access any part of the file, read stuff, bring it in, figure out how everything gets assembled, and then export it out to a package such as Blender has been our main workhorse. We're looking at supporting other 3D software as well. But if you've worked with 3D, if you've worked with game engine development, you know that it's not necessarily a straightforward thing. So this helps automate the process.
Especially a game with this many years of development. Sorry, Ender, go ahead.
No, you're good. Am I able to post a JRDF link? Is it okay with everybody? I don't know if
it's okay with me.
Trouble.
Okay with me.
Yeah, there we go. There it is.
Yeah, go check them out. They have some really cool stuff. With a game that's been development as long as this has, where they've things even like texture files and stuff like that are so spread out, and I'm sure that are just spider web through the game files to be able to pull together all that stuff, build a blueprint, and then open that up in Blender. It's pretty powerful. And I mean, even the first time, and I'm someone who's very familiar with 3D applications, and the first time you demoed it for me, I was like, oh wow, you know what I mean? It really was pretty shocking. So
yeah. And it's amazing. One of my favorite things is you can still find legacy assets within the file. Yeah. The old original ArcCorp landing zone is in there, and you can rebuild it using the tool, which is fantastic. Pieces of Levski are still in there.
Yeah.
So
can't wait till we get Levski back. It was one of my favorite landing zones.
It was the air traffic controller, man. He was so relaxed and happy. I loved it. God, I loved it.
Well, so StarFab again, you can see up here, allows you to do really cool things. I mean, VM, you've used it to do some incredible cross sections. I wish I'd gathered them all to display them all here, but people can obviously check your Twitter, and I believe on Reddit you've posted a lot of these really cool cross sections. I know you did one of the 890 jump, etc. That was really cool. Can you tell us a little bit in just the wider community what the plan is for StarFab in terms of community people being able to use it going forward? Is it an open tool, or is it something that well, what's the kind of end goal with StarFab in your mind?
We have up until this point been working with not just you on Fleet Viewer, but a number of community members who we've either invited in. I think we're to the point where actually it's kind of an open beta. We would like this very much to be a community tool to let community members do animations, do cross sections, do the visualization, do the prints themselves. If you are into 3D, we want this to be a tool that
Yeah.
you can use to power that. Because really, we love the ships in game, but a lot of it's imagination powered. We'd love to be able to slap a different paint job on it. We'd love to do our concept ships where we move stuff around
Mhm.
or kit bash a new ship from existing parts. So that is one of our goals for the StarFab project,
Yeah.
is to make this accessible for everyone.
And how, because I'll speak to this a little bit with Fleet Viewer here in a minute, but how has CIG been in terms of this project? I mean, have they been supportive of it? Is this something that's obviously, I imagine it would be on the radar?
Um, if it was, I don't know if I'd be able to talk about it at this
Yeah.
point.
Good. That's
But
that. Read into that what you will. I mean, it's
There you go.
again, it's when you get talented community members working on stuff, especially stuff that can get the attention of developers. I think that shows that there's a
yeah,
lot of talent in the community, and as long as it can be channeled in the right way, obviously you gotta play by the rules and stuff, and I'll can talk a little bit about that with Fleet Viewer. But as long as you can play by the rules, I think CIG really supports these type of endeavors in a really cool way. So hats off to them for that.
yeah. And we just want to add too that we've been we want to be very respectful of CAG's
Yeah,
intellectual property. We realize as cool as the tool this is, that it also can open up a lot of doors for people if they misuse it. So
yeah,
we've always been very try to emphasize that respect for not misusing the tool, and we want to make this available. We want to make sure everyone else shows that same respect.
yeah. And I feel like in my discussions with CIG, not to quote anything or anything, but the vibe I got was very much one of like, if it's done, and with the right if it's done in terms of doing something positive for the entire community to be able to be creative and enjoy this and this game even more, then
Yeah.
they seem to really support it. And again, I think that's really cool, so hats off. I will go ahead and say, I'm going to switch over real quick since we're kind of on this tangent. um, Starfab links up with Fleet Viewer, obviously. I think we did a final count. I think Starlet helped us do a final count, or maybe it was me and you. I forget how we got to these numbers, but we found out it was pretty much split right down the middle. Half the ships were done with Starfab and Fleet Viewer, and half the ships were done with my pipeline, the terrible Grim pipeline. And they were kind of split where most of the in-game ships were Starfab, pretty much maybe all of them or close to all of them. And then I would say, and then all the concept ships were with my pipeline. There's some reasons we did that. Obviously, StarFab can't pull something that doesn't exist. But it was. I thought it was pretty incredible how closely they all blended together. I mean, obviously, you zoom in a lot. The StarFab ships have more detail, especially like in those like palm decal areas and stuff. But overall, the Fleet Viewer was kind of a great test bed project for Starfab, but also with my kind of own internal pipeline. So seeing those two things come together, which is someone who's worked in the 3D industry for a long time, very rarely does this happen where two pipelines will come together and work out so perfectly.
Yeah,
It really was pretty seamless, don't you agree? I mean, we started on this a year and a half ago. Isn't that crazy?
I
A
think
year and a
that
half ago?
yeah, I think it was. So
Yeah.
I know from my end, from working on it, we ironed out a lot of bugs on our end from bringing in ships, finding little quirks
Yeah.
to the way they were assembled, especially the legacy ships. Old shaders, funky stuff in the code.
Yeah.
So
Execute just said, so the Grim pipeline is Drake and the Starfab pipeline is Origin. Yeah, it's probably a good description of it. Yeah, 100%, 100%. My pipeline was definitely one of almost every ship had a bit of a unique build to it. It depended on the level of detail that the hollow model has. And some of those hollow models are really in some serious rough shape, like like ships like the Polaris, the Hull E, the Hull D, the Pioneer, stuff like that. They required an absolute ton of work. So, yeah. So, Starjump Fleet Viewer, obviously, for those in our community, we did release it. It finally came out. Oops, is this playing? Let me mute this. Nope, it's loop muted. Obviously, we released Fleet Viewer. This was a project about a year and a half in the making. We started last year in April, I believe. Yeah, 2021 April. Um, Finally came out. We got all of our stuff in there. Again, big hats. Shout out to Starlet. Hats off to her. She did an absolutely incredible amount of work in a really short amount of time. I remember when we were going up to the version 1 release, I thought we were going to have maybe 10% of the features she was able to get in there. And again, this is why it was good for her to take a nice sabbatical for a minute, rest, let people sit with the Fleet Viewer for a bit. Obviously, we have a lot of plans for it going forward. I think Starlet has a list of like 100 features or something. I don't know how many. I'm exaggerating, but it's a long list of stuff that we want to add. And then obviously the ultimate goal of Fleet Viewer is to, once certain features come online for it, I want to sort of turn it into Fleet Command, which is a bigger idea and a bigger sort of project that will require some thinking and whatnot. I would say Fleet Viewer is the visual base of that, but we have a lot of ideas of where we want to take it and create something truly special. CIG's been incredibly supportive about Fleet Viewer. They reached out, they were blown away. One of the cool things they said was that a lot of people at CIG were using the Fleet Viewer and they were sharing pictures of their fleet, which we thought was really, really cool. I guess the last thing I'll say about Fleet Viewer is we were running a contest on Twitter for Fleet Viewer for people to make the most creative image. It doesn't have to be a fleet image, but the most creative image out of it. Excuse says, can we get a demo of Starfab? Yeah, we should do a demo of Starfab video or stream VM maybe in a week or so. That'd be really cool.
yeah,
We should do that. We can arrange for that, XQ. Yeah,
absolutely.
we can get that going. Let us get some stuff planned for that so we can do a proper presentation of it to show it in the best light. But yeah, we could definitely do that.
And I will say,
yeah.
James reached out and sent a link for a current release that everybody's able to install. And I
Cool.
posted that link's out there.
Cool.
That is the public release, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Public release.
So
cool.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, thank you. So they've been incredibly supportive. We ran this contest. We ran it till the 30th of September. We got some great submissions. CIG partnered with us on that contest, and they put up 3 rewards for first place, second place, and third place. First place is a C2 Hercules with lifetime insurance. Second place is the Origin 400i with LTI, and third place is the Argo Raft with LTI. We are going to myself, Starlet, Ender, and VMXCO. We got to judge these. I have all the submissions. I'm compiling them in a list right now, an organized list, so we can all 4 vote on it and come to a consensus on who's on our first, second, third place winners. I think we probably will announce that either Sunday of this coming weekend or maybe sometime next week. But sometime around there, we're going to do an episode of our Fleet Builders show, which we're going to talk more about at the end of this that we do on Ender's channel, and that's where we'll probably announce who the winners are. But again, don't know if anyone from CIG is watching, but if you are, thank you for partnering with us on that contest. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, they've been great. They've been wanting to support Fleet Viewer in a big way.
They really have.
Cool. All right, so that is our Fleet Viewer discussion. Again, stand by for more updates on that. We have a lot of stuff planned for it. And then if you're wondering, with CitizenCon coming up, which we're about to go into, if you're wondering about CitizenCon or IAE new ship announcements, both concept and flight ready, if you're wondering like how fast those will get into Fleet Viewer, while I can't say exactly how fast they'll get in, it will probably be a matter of days, 2 or 3 days, and we'll probably have them in Fleet Viewer. So the turnaround time is pretty quick. I know the project took a long time to get out the door, but that's because we had 100, I don't even know how many ships to get through at multiple angles. But going forward, it will be easy to just update that. So again, whatever flight ready ships or whatever new concept ship announcements that come out, we will get that into Fleet Viewer. So, Ender,
and if you want to join the conversation about Fleet Viewer, or if you have questions, comments, concerns, issues, any of that, I'm going to post the link to our Discord. You can join there and you can have some fun.
Again, everyone, this is going to be a little bit of a short episode tonight because we're just trucking along, making sure everything works. We're doing a lot of prep work for the Equinox this weekend, but we wanted to still do this episode and kind of grease the wheels here of Starjump Station, make sure everything's still working. The last thing we have to talk about tonight, before we get to Guardians and Fleet Builders, which is kind of end of show stuff, the last general sort of topic was CitizenCon. Obviously, that was announced was a week or two ago. It'll be on October 8th, so that's this Saturday at 3 p.m. UTC. That'll be on their Twitch channel, I believe. And I think they've got 7 panels total. We're going to go through the panels here and kind of talk a little bit about them. But CitizenCon 2952, I guess I'll ask our guest first. VM, excited about CitizenCon? I know you'll be at Equinox during the event, but excited about it?
I am very excited. I've got some specific stuff I'm looking forward to. I'm not going to jump ahead, but yeah.
Cool. Ender, thoughts? I know me and you, I think it was at last CitizenCon, we kind of did we watch it together through stream? I can't remember. We had a stream going, like a little watch party.
We watched some of it through stream. I was out with my family during a few of those bits, but I was keeping up with it and calling you pretty much the whole time. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the digital goodies that they have. That
I forgot to grab
jumpsuit that they have looks really good.
I forgot to grab an image of that. So they got the Wally. I don't forget.
Scroll down.
No, it's not the webpage. It's just a still.
Yeah.
I forget the
It's on the page if you scroll down.
No, what I'm showing though is not the webpage.
I'm an idiot. No.
I wish it was. That'd have been much smarter of me, but no, it's not. Some pretty cool little CitizenCon goodies. I think they did say those will drop to everyone though during when 318 releases.
Nice.
But anyways,
I like the look of that.
The jumpsuit is cool. It is cool. Let's go through some of the panels real quick. I'd love to get your thoughts on them. So first panel is Journey to 4.0. Originally they were saying the road to 4.0. Now they're saying the journey. I'm wondering how long this journey is gonna be. Hopefully I packed enough supplies to
next year it's going to be the epic voyage to 4.0.
Yes, the epic voyage to 4.0. Planetary Pyro, it says join us for a guided in-engine tour through many of the planets, moons of the upcoming Pyro system, exploring their current development status and why they're more than just burnt charge husks that you may have read about. So, we kind of got a little bit of this. What was it, last CitizenCon? They kind of took us on a little bit of a tour. Now I know there was one planet we didn't see at all. I think it was Pyro 6. I could be wrong. I can't remember if Astropub mentioned that on his stream a couple days ago or not, but there's definitely one planet in Pyro we haven't seen. But hand it off to you, Ender. Thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on Pyro? What are you hoping they're going to show this time that we haven't already seen?
I'd like to see more information about, if I'm understanding right, there are going to be solar flares. So I'd like to see some information about the solar flares
Yeah, that'd be cool.
that could or could not happen. We got to see the stations, which is cool. They've shown some planetary stuff, but not a lot. But this is something, the solar flares are what really interests me, and if they can get that implemented, and if we'll get that at release or not, I think that would be the difference between a successful launch of Pyra and a good launch of Pyra. It's going
The
to be
small
great to have it in
details,
their
right?
system.
Like things like the solar stuff that deliberately make it different than Stanton.
Exactly.
Stuff like the solar flare and stuff like that.
Yeah. And just maybe more detail on how that's going to make Pyro more difficult for everybody.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see that.
BM, thoughts on Pyro? What you'd like to see?
I am waiting for more points of interest, actually. So I think they've demoed off. We've seen Ruin Station, and we've seen a lot of the Colonial Outpost. Have we seen much of anything else?
Well, was that Ruin Station, or was it just Pirate State? Well, I guess that would probably be Ruin. I know they called it like a pirate space station, but they never really called it Ruin Space Station unless I missed that. But I could see them just making it that. It looked huge. I mean, I figured that would be Ruin Station size. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. I would personally like to see them expand a little bit, linking back to what you said, Ender, on the solar flares. I'd like them to talk a little bit about the Pyro system as a whole. One of the things that's often talked about by different content creators is the size of Pyro, right? It's supposed to be huge from just a distance standpoint. I know Executes in chat right now. Info Runners just did an episode on the game slowing down in terms of how quick it is to do things in game, and is that a good thing, is it a bad thing, whatever. But regardless, if Pyro is as big as it's supposed to be, it's going to take a long time to get from A to B throughout. And one of the things I think one of the people on that show said was that it's all about those things that you bump into along the way, again, points of interest, stuff like that. So I'm interested to see how they handle the size of Pyro, if they're truly bringing Pyro in at that really large size, and then how they're filling that up, because there's a lot of space within Stanton right now. They've filled Stanton out over the years, but it's taken quite a few years to fill it out. So is Pyro going to launch pretty filled out, or are we going to have a very empty system to start? So that'll be interesting to see.
And that was the hope for them simplifying that and getting all of the planets in for Stanton was, all right, once we get the basic bones down, we can then build a system to build these systems faster. So
yeah, their pipeline
the hope
tools.
Is we can get a fully fleshed out, or at least a mostly fleshed out Pyro.
Yeah, the planetary tools and all that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what they've been working on. So that'll be interesting to see. That'll be the first panel. Again, there's not a keynote at this year's CitizenCon, at least not that they've told us. Next panel is called Journey to 4.0. I guess they're all called that. Journey to 4.0, Design Brief Investigations. Explore the pitch process for a new mission archetype that leaves combat and delivery behind for mindful deduction and increased storytelling. So this is interesting in that it sounds like deeper missions that require more thoughtful gameplay approaches, maybe some puzzle solve. They sound like a little bit of a mix of a couple of things: some platforming, some exploring, some puzzle solving, all that. But I'm a little concerned about the explore the early pitch process for this. Now, this is still labeled Journey to 4.0 though, so it sounds like this stuff they're trying to have it come with Pyro. But I sort of look at this as linking back to that Pyro demo they showed us last year, where you're going into the outpost on Pyro to buy the artifact, but you could approach it multiple ways. You remember that, where you could like go in guns blazing or sneak in or whatever. Do you think
See,
this is what that is? Do you think they're expanding on
no,
that?
no. So
Okay.
what I'm reading from this? Do you remember and it's still in Crusader? You have the ability to pick up an investigation that takes you to Security Post Grunda, or
Mm-hmm.
Kovalek's shipping
Yeah.
hub, Grunda. From what it sounds like, is it's a steroided version of this,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you're right. I think it's going to be an investigation. It's going to be a platformer, but it sounds like the pitch process for like the 2.0 version of that mission, which, because they say leaves combat behind. You know, that right there alone, leaving combat and delivery behind, lets me know that it's not going to be that particular side of the pitch, you know, where you could go in guns blazing or you could sneak, because that still inherently is combat.
Yeah.
I
True.
think this is an investigation, a true investigation that maybe could span multiple areas and multiple planets. And you know what? I'm for that.
Yeah, we
you know
need
me, I
that.
love combat, but I really think the game needs more to do outside of combat.
And I think,
And this
yeah.
seems like it could.
And I think combat will feel more special when there is more things to do in the game from a gameplay
Yeah.
loop perspective, because it's not that combat is bad. It's just that when it's the only thing to do, that can get problematic. You need combat, like everything else, needs to exist in a larger ecosystem for it to have weight and gravity to it. But VM, thoughts on this? New mission archetypes?
Similar to Ender's, my thought, just to add to what Ender already said, is these types of missions, I think, really open up opportunities for good storytelling through mission design. And I think that's the one thing, in Star Citizen, we kind of make our own stories.
Yeah.
But I think with these investigations, you can tell a story, and I think that's going to help make the universe feel more lived in. And I hope this is the time they take that as an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, honestly, there's such a backlog of lore for this game. I would love for them to find more ways through storytelling and or through missions, but then also just injecting story into the game as much as possible to get more of that lore to us. Again, you can go as heavy-handed as a mission, but even little things like at IAE, I love how they have the wall that tells the history of the Invictus tells the history of the UEE and stuff. Like doing what they can to do that, I think, is really cool. They need to get more of the story for those of us to learn, who want to learn about the lore of the game. Getting as much of that in as possible, I think, is a good thing. Let's go to the next set of panels. Next one is, again, Journey to 4.0, the new underground. When corporations, commerce, and caverns collide, take your first look at the enormous reimagining of underground facilities and the new gameplay possibilities that will arrive with them. So, right off the bat with this one, they're using a word like enormous, reimagining. So I think what I'm thinking here, either underground facilities is in cave facilities, but I could even see this meaning something like, like asteroid stations and stuff inside asteroids, all that kind of stuff could fall under this banner. VM, why don't you give us your thoughts on this one?
This panel immediately made me think of the Mighty Bridge tool that Turbulent showed off some time ago,
Mm-hmm.
that they could easily make things like station interiors. And I look at this and think, have they extended this to underground facilities? Can you make the Star Citizen equivalent to a MMO dungeon where you go in and every facility is laid out differently? We've seen what they were able to do with the tools for Siege of Orison.
Yeah.
Can you now have your underground facilities go from a relatively small facility to maybe a sprawling underground complex with combat or mission retrieval, or all sorts of opportunities would arise?
Yeah. And your thoughts?
I think I think this is closer to what you were talking about with the design brief section. I think this is the pyro version of those missions where you can go in and you can stealth it or you can run and gun it. But I agree with V too. I really do hope that they take the opportunity to build it out like a MMO dungeon and have that team gameplay that we kind of miss right now. We're not getting a lot of that. People prefer to just do it themselves and go it alone. And man, I'd love to see it. Just let's go with a team. Let's get a squad together and run something. And it's dangerous and maybe impossible to do it by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. We've heard a lot about like caves and underground stuff they've been showing on ISCs and stuff lately, new sand, like cave archetypes and stuff. They seem to really be leaning into this. And when I saw those, I was thinking on ISC, I was thinking they've got to have bigger plans for underground stuff because it seems like they're putting a lot of effort into something that we can't even take our ships into or vehicles into right now. And not that FPS stuff isn't important to them. It obviously is, but it seemed like a lot of effort going into that for it just to be some walkable caves. So this kind of leans into that a little bit. I would love to see perhaps on Pyro, maybe because some of the planets are a little bit more inhospitable on their surface, maybe there does have to be more underground facilities to sort of protect those facilities. That could be kind of cool. Another panel here, Journey 4.0, the need for multiple speeds. We all know how speed impacts combat, but now learn how master modes initially developed for Squadron 42 will impact the flight experience for the persistent universe and better define ship roles for all vehicles in Star Citizen. This is one of the main things I think Star Citizen needs. It filters into a lot of things on all the ships right now. The whole jumping around when a new ship comes out. For example, I've heard everything even recently about how the Corsair is going to be this amazing combat ship when it comes out. It's got all these pilot control guns, and then you have the people who say, "Oh, it's going to be nerfed into oblivion soon after." I'm hoping things like this, these master modes, will allow ships to stabilize a little bit because now that will give CIG the ability to fine tune that ship's role a little bit more carefully, and make it to where you can't take a ship like the Prowler and the Prowler comes in and turns into the number one combat ship in the game. You know what I mean? So, but then without having to like nerf the ship into oblivion. So I'm really hoping that master modes. I do hope they make combat better because I personally feel ship to ship combat in Star Citizen is very weak and very janky feeling. But part of that is the speeds at which it occurs. Everything's happening so fast that you can't that it turns into a jousting match. It's just how every combat scenario turns out, and it's just like constant back and forth, and it immediately feels like you're playing a video game and one that wasn't like done up very well. So I really think master modes are going to be the thing that gets us out of the jousting stuff and gets us to actual like doing maneuvers, and like it's not going to be about how good you can just keep the pip on there, on the target reticle anymore. It's going to be how well you can fly your ship. Okay, how maverick are you? I guess I should say. But I hope that's part of it. But then I hope the other part of it though is it does stabilize ship volatility, because I think there is a lot of ship volatility. We saw the stuff with the Ares and it came out and then it was I'm hoping this can put knobs and switches in there so CIG can adjust these ships without having to go in and nerf them out, completely, just based off the fact that they're overperforming in one area. CIG has to do some global nerf on it. You know what I mean? I think this will give them the ability to do that. And I'm going to hand it over to you on this one. I know you do a lot of combat, buddy. What's your thoughts on this? Obviously, this is something they've been working on for Squadron 42 for some time.
Yeah, I agree. I think slowing it down is necessary, because combat right now is just jousting, and there are people who are really good at it.
Yeah.
But it's jousting. They shouldn't be, right? We should be doing maneuvers. I should be able to do a split S to get away from somebody, or hit the brakes while they're chasing me to get
Mhm.
behind them. Anything. But right now, man, they're not chasing me. They're not
And
behind me. They're
I think the
jousting.
situation's even worse probably versus AI ships.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
way worse
yeah,
versus AI.
and that's to me where the real issue is, and I really hope that master modes can affect that, because I would imagine the master modes will be for AI ships as well.
Yeah.
So they're going to be governed by that, and AI ships are really what sort of ruin the ship combat for me personally, and kind of take away from it. Is again, it really is jousting then. So I
Well,
think this is the thing that's going to solve that.
we're learning from the AI on how to fight, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people, I should say, a lot of people are learning from the AI and not each other. Now, there are some who go out and all they do is fight against other people, and they come up with their own ways of flying, and
Yeah.
they don't joust, and that's great. But if we stop the jousting in the AI, we stop the jousting everywhere, and that's
Yeah.
I think that's
I watch a
stupid
lot
important.
of players that are pretty big in the PvP community play and try to show their secret. But when I watch their streams, I go, it's jousting. You're a better jouster than the other person. I understand your concept on how you're doing it a different way, but I'm watching it and it's jousting. So I'm hoping we can get away from that, and allow CIG's combat to really turn into something special. And obviously there's other things that factor into that: time to kill, ship disablement, breakability. We know a lot about that stuff. The whole engineering role that ships are going to play, and we've been shown some hints on that with hammerheads. A lot of that stuff has to come together for CIG's true vision of combat to come to fruition. But I think this is an important first step. Let's go to the next set of panels. Next one is Journey to 4.0 Loreville Redo. I'm going to hand this one straight over to VMXEO because you've talked a little bit about some of this stuff. I will go ahead and just point out, though, Loreville is my favorite landing zone in the game.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's mine too.
Yeah.
And this is probably the panel I am most excited for. I'm going to try not to fanboy right now, but let me explain. Let me explain why. No, Loreville is it's an amazing environment to begin with.
Yeah.
It has got the cyberpunk feel to it.
Yeah.
The recent edition of the Loreville Maria Pure of Heart Hospital, I think, kind of knocked it out of the park. Not just the visual design, but even the audio design. It feels like something out of a classic cyberpunk game. One of the reasons I'm so excited for this panel is the principal concept arc. Eric Gagnon is over at Turbulence. He has worked on some other classic games in his career. For instance, Deus Ex Human Revolution. If you want a great cyberpunk game that has got, some incredible environments, things that he worked as a concept artist on there. And I think Turbulent, now that they're starting to work more and more on this, especially now with Loreville, we're going to see that cyberpunk influence even more. At least that's what I'm hoping for. So this project, I think, is in good hands.
What are
They've got the good people.
What are you hoping they bring to Loreville that, besides a redesign, are you hoping that they bring anything to Loreville that we don't have currently? I mean, one of the things I would add in there is I would love for the landing zone, the actual landing pad, to be redone a bit. I find Loreville to be one of the more challenging places to land currently. And I think that, now that they're redoing it, this is a perfect chance to either make top-down hangars a little bigger, CIG, to get some of those characters in there, or, maybe they'll do side hangars that you get to fly into from the side or whatever. But what do you think? What are you hoping to see specifically, maybe?
This is what I want. This is what I'm hoping to see. They've already shown with Siege of Orison that they can build entire environments for like FPS combat. I would love to see, first of all, more environments for Loreville in general. But if they can do some version of Siege of Orison, but make it Loreville specific, perhaps it's a extension of the underground facilities of Loreville that you go into, and it's not a pure FPS combat. It's more stealth based. Um, there's so much you could do with the Lorville environment that doesn't even involve spaceships. Just being a character in that cyberpunk environment,
Hmm.
I think you could do so much just on foot.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So much
Again,
just on foot.
I think this could be a cool opportunity for them to do things even like maybe have um, dedicated landing areas at the hospital itself with like quick access to the hospital. You know what I mean? Like things like that they could kind of rethink. It'd be really interesting to see what they do with this. Is this the first this is really the first landing zone they've ever did a full redesign of, right? Because Lorville was the first landing zone. So I think this is the first time we've ever seen them take something that was and totally redo it.
I'd
Art,
almost Art Court kind of got a
Artcorp,
redesign since the
yeah,
original.
yeah,
Yeah, it did. Was it I
you know.
was it is I don't know the original ArtCorp. Was the original ArtCorp completely different than one we have now? I'm not sure.
Somewhat, yeah,
Somewhat. Okay.
somewhat. It had a different look, um,
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to see
less
what they do with
purple,
it. Yeah, less purple.
but
It's,
yeah,
There you
yeah,
go. And obviously, we're going to get a Levski redesign
yeah.
with Nix. I'm sorry, but yeah, it'll
yeah.
be interesting to see what they do with it. Next panel, Journey to 4.0 Power Play, how the upcoming resource management system will change life in the verse as we know it, from combat to player homesteading, and allow for true multi-crew gameplay. Well, this resource management system, from what we've learned, this is the engineering role really plays heavily into this. While I don't think this is all engineers will deal with, this is a major focus of engineer gameplay. But essentially, this is about power management. And what I love is that power management is not just limited to ships. I think it's going to affect everything from our spacesuits to obviously homesteads. I think I even saw CIG in one of their updates recently was able to figure out like the coffee machine on ships was able to plug into the power supply. So even things like in your ship, like coffee machines and stuff, are going to be a power drain on it. So again, the more stuff you add to your ship, power is going to be a real concern. And I can almost see, there's a lot of talk sometimes about the engineer role in gameplay in the future. I think it's going to be kind of interesting where a lot of people think of engineering role now probably as like the person that fix things when they break, you know what I mean? But I'm thinking of it more like Scotty on the Enterprise now, where your captain may be asking for more power and you've got to be the one to tell him power's available or there is no more power available. So you're actually taking a very active role in the ship's performance, right? What it can do, how well it can do it. And what's so fundamentally different in that style of gameplay versus the way we've been playing for years is that now no longer is just the captain, the pilot of the ship. No longer are they going to be the most important person on that ship, especially large, medium, large, and capital ships. Hand it over to both of you. Any thoughts on the resource management system? Obviously, this is going to be a pretty big one. This is going to be done by Dan Truffin.
I'm stupid amounts of excited for resource management. I'm glad that they're mentioning homesteading with this because I
Me too.
agree. It is inherent to have power management for a home.
Yeah.
But also multi-crew gameplay. And something you mentioned, actually, I was in here laughing internally in my head because I was imagining a firefight going on and maneuvers and just a carrot going insane trying to survive a pirate attack. And George decides to make coffee and the whole ship just shuts down.
Yeah. That's one strong
I,
cup of coffee.
that's been running through my head for the last 5 minutes. I like the fact that they're mentioning homesteading. That's exciting to me because I'm very, very excited to build a homestead and deal with that power management. Leave the house and go hunting for food. Any of that stuff. it gives life. You know what I mean? And it gives that life that we need very, very badly. So
But
very
I'm gonna
excited for
circle
it.
back to something you said though, and I think it would be really fascinating to be on something like a Carrack, or you know what, not even that big. Let's go to something like a Connie or a Hammerhead, something like that. But either way, let's say you're flying through a dangerous area of space, or whether it's pirates or maybe solar flares like in Pyro, or maybe there's a system that's going to be more dangerous than Pyro. Regardless, it would be interesting for you, the person who's playing that engineer role, to say, "Hey, I'm shutting down because we want to have as much power for shields or whatever as possible, and engines. I'm going to shut down, life support and several rooms of the ship that we're not using." You know what I
Stay
mean?
out of these
And
rooms. Yeah.
exactly. And if they can introduce that granularity into the resource management system, which I think they are, but if it's got that level of granularity, man, sign me up for the engineering role. And I've heard a
Absolutely.
lot from people, from content creators in the past. Some content creators, others are on the other side, where some say that everyone's only ever going to want to fly their own ships, and then on the flip side of that, you hear people saying, "Oh no, people are going to love the engineering role." I really subscribe to the fact that people are going to love these other roles. I mean, the engineering role to me sounds, for days, sounds more fascinating than even piloting the ship at this point.
I'll tell you what I've noticed, and V, I'm sorry to take up this. The people saying, "Oh, the people are only going to want to fly their own ships," are the same people asking if they can put guns on their whole A, to instead of boxes. These are the people that want to
You don't want
do
to do that?
everything on one chip.
Yeah, you're right.
And they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
They're wrong because it's what they want, but not everybody's going to want that. I'll be an engineer all day long.
Yeah.
V, go ahead. Sorry.
And I was going to say the engineer. This has been true for the orgs I've been in. I can't speak for all orgs, but you always have at least one person in the org. He knows the loadouts. You come in and say, "Look, I've got this ship. What's the best component loadout?" He can recommend, he can point you to Urkel, but he just knows. That's the guy you're going to want as your engineer, because if they do this right, he's going to be the one not only to manage power on the ship, he's going to know the health of all the components. He's going to know what needs to be on. He's going to need to be what components work the best in what situations.
Yeah.
And that is awesome, because that's not even necessarily gamification. That's just knowledge of the game.
Yeah, that grandma should be your engineer.
There you go.
Well, to me, I think it's really interesting that they mentioned player homesteading here. Obviously, I don't think player homesteading is coming anytime soon, but CIG is also, I think they're very deliberate in what they say and when they say it. And, we've heard over the past couple of years, especially at CitizenCon last year, they showed off a demo of this where they showed the modular system for building homesteads. They even crazily, and I can't believe they did this, they mentioned the Pioneer, which was shocking. And then here they're dropping player homesteading as well, even a brief mention. While I don't think it's around the corner, I definitely think that CIG is thinking about player homesteading. I think they know for two things. One, I think they know people want it. Okay. But two, they know it's a gameplay loop. And it's a gameplay loop in my mind in two different ways. One, I think the player homesteading thing where you go out, look for a place, build a homestead, gather the supplies, get it built, all that stuff. That's a gameplay loop in and of itself, right? It's not as maybe as succinct as like salvaging or mining or whatever, but that is a full gameplay loop probably to not only get your homestead built, but then maintain it. But then the other thing I see with player homesteading is it's one of those gameplay loops that will actually pull from a lot of the other gameplay loops, right? So for me, that's where the true Star Citizen magic will come in. So with the player homesteading, you're going to want defenses, right? So combat, turrets, all that kind of stuff. You're going to want the ability to mine and harvest resources in the area to keep your homestead up. Exploration to find, locate, set land claims, all that. So I do think I don't think it's around the corner. I do think it's very cool that CIG is mentioning homesteading at all, because at least reminds us as a community that, hey, they haven't forgot about some of these big overarching umbrella ideas that need to be in the game for the magic to happen, right? So I think, because there's a lot of games you can go out and mine in, there's a lot of games you can go salvage in, there's a lot of games you can do ship to ship combat in. That stuff to me is not special at all. If you want to do some cool salvaging, go play Shipbreaker, right? There's those games exist, but what Star Citizen will do that those don't do is it's going to bring all those into one funnel and require all of them to work together to accomplish yet another goal. So that's pretty key. So I think it's, again, cool that they're even mentioning it. Last but not least, we have our final panel for CitizenCon, Talking Ship 2952, our annual presentation from the ship teams. Discover the latest vehicles throughout the pipeline, from concept to newly flyable, and a new twist to this year's voting on a new ship to come. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of, we're bound to get probably a new concept or a new flight ready ship at CitizenCon, I would guess. What I don't think will be a huge surprise is, I think CitizenCon is where they'll pull back the curtain a little bit on the Corsair. They have been showing us quite a bit about the Corsair's development, but there's a lot we have not seen about the Corsair. We actually haven't seen its exterior with any sort of texture work applied whatsoever yet. We haven't seen how the wings fold. We haven't seen a lot about the Corsair, so I think you can, if you're a Corsair fan like me, I think you can expect to see some of that at CitizenCon. In addition to that, I'm sure we'll get Banu Merchantman updates as well, probably some Hull C updates. But I'll hand it over to VM first. VM, what are you most excited for from these ship panels? That's, I guess, the right question I want to ask you, because obviously you in your position, there may be stuff you know that others don't know. But what are you most excited from these ship panels when John Crew and Ben Curtis and Paul Jones talk?
I want to see the new stuff. I
Yep.
want to see the stuff they haven't even hinted at yet. I'm excited for the brand new Merchantman. We've seen that inside and out. I think we're in a pretty good place with that. Corsair, same story. We've seen very detailed renders of the interior. Like you said, we don't know what the outside looks like. We have somewhat of an idea. So, yeah, those two ships, very, very good place. We've seen a little bit of the Odyssey. How about the ships they haven't even announced yet?
Yep.
You know, they've got ships up their sleeves. So I'm most excited for the stuff that I don't even know about.
Gotcha. And then talking about things you don't know about, can you make one let's make one prediction, whatever, each one of us. So what's a ship you would like to see announced? Maybe in a category. And if you need to think about that,
what is it? Is it a prediction or something we'd like to see? Because those
are two different things. Let's say a prediction.
Different things. Okay.
What do you think they'll announce? Doesn't have to be specific.
I will predict this.
Okay.
CIG has, I think, just hit upon the value of reimagining existing ships into variants.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's worked. Sometimes, like the Cutlass Steel.
Agreed.
I think we're going to see a few of those because they're going to, but I think we're going to see a few of those because they can realize they can take an existing ship, redo the interior, give it a different role, turn around, sell it again.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most bang for their buck right now.
Yeah, and based off how many times I see it brought up on Reddit and other Star Citizen communities, if they made a medical, like a Cutlass Red variant of the Terrapin, I think they would make money all day long from from what I'm getting from the community. Ender, thoughts about the ship panel, things you'd like to see, what you're excited for? Yeah.
I think I'm most excited now for what James Stormtrooper just said. The Origin Burger King Whopper, $4.99.
Of course.
No, I would like to see.
If you remember,
ships.
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. And if you remember, one of my very first memes I made when we started playing this game was the Drake Kraken McDonald's privateer,
Yep.
and it was a fast food empire Kraken privateer. I'm
loved
still
it.
saying, if you CIG, free idea,
I loved it.
free idea. I need to get that into Fleet Viewer apparently.
Guys.
Anyway, sorry, Ender. Go ahead. You were saying medical.
No,
ships.
you're good. I'd like to see some more medical ships. And you know, we've gotten combat, we've gotten mining, we've gotten exploration, but we haven't gotten a lot of medical ships. So I think if I have any prediction, and maybe it's just wishful thinking, it's that we're going to see something medical this year.
Do you think we need a medical ground vehicle?
I think a ground vehicle is definitely something that should be in the works, but I don't think we need it now. Ground vehicles are shit now, and they really need to get that working. The McEnder before they do that, right?
Yeah.
But I do think it should be on the radar of something we're going to see soon.
Yeah.
I would like to see a ship. You know what I mean? I would feel a little slighted. Yeah, we've got the Apollos eventually coming, but I would like to see a larger medical ship on the rise at some point.
There's obviously ships like the Carrack and 890 have medical facilities on board. We all know that, but they're not labeled as medical ships. And if you think about just medical ships, we do have a bit of a gulf from the Apollo to the Endeavor Hope, dedicated medical ships. And it kind of does make you wonder if CIG's got something planned that's in the middle of that, or if they do consider those ships like I wonder if they do consider ships like the Carrack kind of being able to play that role. I'd be interested to know.
The Carrack can play that role, but it is an exploration ship at the end of the day. Whereas, the Apollo is a medevac.
I am hoping to see what I'm hoping to see is a repair ship that, we have two right now that are out there. The Crucible, obviously, which is a very complex ship, at least from what we know, utilizing robot repair arms. It's going to have drones on board, full Scarab facility, hangar facilities, and all that. And then we have the Vulcan, which approaches repair in a much different way, primarily with drones, actually solely with drones from the looks of it. I would actually like to see them riff off this idea of the salvage lasers and make a repair ship that does everything through the reverse laser. You know what I mean? Maybe it can't do as effectively as the Vulcan, or maybe it can, or whatever, but something that they could actually implement now. We know they can't do the Vulcan right now because drones are not there yet. It'd actually be good to get an update on drones, but I could see them doing a repair ship, something that we will need in Pyro, in my opinion, a repair ship that utilizes lasers, much like a Vulture or a Reclaimer, that can repair ships by taking the boxes that the Reclaimer and the Vulture output, those recycled materials boxes, bringing those on and being able to do limited ship repairs with its magic lasers. That's something I think that would be pretty cool to see. Let's see here. XQ says, technically size-wise, the Red is a medium, the Apollo is large, and the Endeavor is capital. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, the Apollo is, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, is it like 38 meters long or something? To me, the Apollo, or maybe the Apollo's long. 43.
So the Red's 37.5 meters.
The problem is the Red grew when the Cutlass grew. That's the real issue. So
and maybe the Apollo will grow, but
it might.
I don't see it as a medium, large, and then it's too big of a gulf, right?
Yeah, I see what Execute's saying, but I think with the Cutlass Red growing, you've now got the Apollo and the Red. It's almost like the Red is kind of, the Red is in a weird place. The Apollo, though, I think does have 4 or 5. I think it has 6 beds in it. I could be wrong with that, but
I think it's just 2 if I remember the
gotcha.
information
Yeah.
correctly. But also, like, the red is kind of in a weird place, like you said, because it's not the same anymore. It'll keep you alive, but it's no longer a medical ship. It's just essentially a survival ship.
Which ship is that?
A life raft. The Cutlass Red.
Oh yeah. I mean, the other thing too is that I could definitely see a ship in that 90-meter range, something like that. But
Yep.
real quick to divert, one thing I would love to see is maybe an update or maybe them begin to talk about the Nautilus. I've said it many and many a time. I don't think they'll talk about it this year. I think it will come up next year. One thing I did notice on the progress tracker is that the space mines, they originally were scheduled for like 2 months of work on them. Well, now space mines have 8 months of work and it's finishing like quarter 2 of next year, quarter 3. So they're obviously putting a lot into space mines, which makes me hope that space mines are going to be more than just the Tephra homing mines. Maybe they'll do the sentries and stuff. So maybe it's time to start talking about the Nautilus. If it's not time to start talking about the Nautilus, then again I go back to the idea of why are they putting so much work and effort into space mines? Could we be getting a smaller or a competitor to the Nautilus, something like some sort of strategic mine layer? Could be interesting. Cool. Okay, so that is the SitCon panels. Again, let me cut off the open. I knew there'd be one mess up this episode. But that is going to be this Saturday. We won't have to wait long to find out. Again, I think we've all said it here. There's lots of good stuff in those panels. I think hopefully we'll start to get a better picture overall of this journey to 4.0. And I think CIG has been ramping up the communication about it. You can tell they have a plan and the background for 4.0's eventual release and where they're going with that, because I've noticed a steady increase in the cadence of discussion and what they're talking about. So real quick here, moving off of CitizenCon, the last thing I wanted to talk about, I'm going to switch back over. The last thing I wanted to talk about is our new show, Fleet Builders. If you haven't checked it out, you really should. We're going to release the second episode very soon. First episode's out. Going forward, we're going to start doing those live on Ender's Twitch channel. But Ender, do you want to talk a little bit about Fleet Builders, what people can expect from that, and kind of what we're going to do with Guardians moving forward and kind of a renewed spotlight on it?
Sure. Fleet Builders is, as you guys may or may not know, it's our theory crafting of fleets.
Wild speculation show.
Yeah, for sure. Essentially, we take ideas from either ourselves or suggestions from you guys, and we build a fleet based around the specifications given. For example, for our first episode, we did a 50-man fleet built around a Kraken.
Yeah.
But we built them very, very differently, and we essentially just build our fleet, and then we come together and talk about it
and compare and show how we approach that problem differently.
And we plan on doing that live now. So we'll build our fleets, throughout the week, and then come together on whatever day we do it. Typically it's going to be Sunday. And do that. Griff has mentioned the logo. And that is a kind of a tie-in to our new Starjump Guardians logo. And Griff knows very, very well that is Lisa's heartbeat. We decided to utilize that, and Griff was gracious enough to give us that. We decided to utilize that and kind of immortalize and always remember Lisa. In the future, Guardians is going to continue doing charity drives. In fact, right now it's October. As of technically the first, but tomorrow, by the way, it is Lisa's birthday today. I just realized that. I've thought about it throughout the day, but I just realized it now while we're talking as well. Tomorrow, we will start our Movember drive. We have goals for that. I don't have the information in front of me, but I will bring it up here while I'm talking.
But I can sum that up, and the more money that goes to charity, the more shorn like a baby's bottom we can make Ender. I'm talking beard removal, hair removal, eyebrow removal. To me, it's all up for grabs.
You're making promises. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. You're going to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
You have to deal with the wife, too. She'll kill you. No.
Not me. It's you.
We have a goal this year. So last year I set a goal of, I think I set a goal of like $500, and we kept just destroying that. So I went ham this year. A little bit. I've set a goal of $5,000 for our Movember. I'm hoping. Let me make sure I'm getting the right information here. Let me go to my dashboard.
And we'll start pushing more of this in Starjump content as we go forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. Here's the donation URL. All right. So that particular link, at $2,500, I will shave my head. Yeah. My wife's not happy about it, but I'll deal with that as it comes along. My hair grows back fast. Yeah. We are going to be raising money through the end of November. And we've been lucky enough, and we haven't gotten confirmation on this, on some of the stuff, but we've been lucky enough to have donations from community members, and we are continuing to take donations from community members for giveaways towards Movember. For those of you who don't know, Movember helps with men's health. And yes, I might be able to wear bike shorts after this. Men's health, mental health, and physical, prostate cancer, things like that.
And thanks to CIG, who has also expressed a willingness to support the charitable stuff, charitable work we're doing. That was one of the first things they contacted us about. So big thanks for that.
Huge deal for that. After this, we're going to be doing St. Jude's, and then at some point we'll be doing Operation Supply Drop again. So we essentially help these three charities. I'm a cancer survivor, I'm a father, and I am a veteran. So yeah, I kind of chose something that resonated with me, but turns out it kind of resonates with a little bit of everybody, because I don't think you can throw a stone in any room without hitting somebody who's been affected in some way by cancer, or had somebody in the military, or knows a child. So yeah. And no, Admiral, I am not doing a high and tight. I did enough of those while I was in the military. So yeah, cool. That's what we're doing in the near future. Right now, it is Movember, so really excited to get going on that and stream and do our giveaways and whatever else we do. Yeah, we are bingo. Yes.
Thank you, Ender. So that's it. Once again, VM, thank you for joining us tonight. I want to get you on a little bit more regularly moving forward, get your insights on stuff, and definitely we will organize some sort of live demo of StarFab. I think that would be really cool, just kind of showing the power of it and what the community can maybe do with it, maybe showcase some of the work that you've done with it, like some of the cutaways and, some of the stuff. I remember one time you did... didn't you do a shot of like one of the ships being coming down into like the theater area at Microtech for Invict, or was it IAE? I think
IAE. I think it was one of the IAE.
Yeah. So just showing some of that could be really cool. Kind of highlighting the work you do, I think would be really fun. We'll get to work on that, everyone. Really appreciate everyone coming to hang out with us tonight. Again, it's been a while since we've been gone. Our last episode was like in May, but again, we kind of went on hiatus because we really wanted to make the final push on Fleet Viewer. more updates are coming to Fleet Viewer. We are obviously going to get any new ships that are announced into Fleet Viewer double quick. And then Starlet has a lot of features planned for Fleet Viewer. I have a lot of features planned. So you're going to see that continue to grow and continue to get bigger. Thank you all for the support with that project. That was a big one. Let me tell you, it was good to get that one out the door after a year and a half of work. That's going to be pretty much it. Again, everyone, thanks for stopping by tonight. We had a pretty good crowd for a group that hadn't been streaming a show in 3 months. So thank you for all coming and hanging out with us. A lot of great community members in the chat tonight. Thanks for keeping it active. That's going to be it for us. We have Equinox this Saturday, but we will probably do a Fleet Builders soon after, maybe early next week or something. We'll do a live Fleet Builders whenever it works out for Ender to do that. We'll get back on that. That'll be on Ender's Twitch channel. And then the next weekend, after that, we'll probably be Starjump Station again. What we're hoping to do is kind of leapfrog each other. So 1 week it'll be Station, next week will be Fleet Builders, then Station, then Fleet Builders. So cool. Everyone, have a great night. I am going to do a big salute to Starlet, who is in the chat. Big salute to Starlet, a fellow Starjump member who's just taking a break from Starjump Station, but we love her. We miss her. Hope you're doing well, Starlet. All right, everyone. We will talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging out. See you next